Alright, in this video we're going to be simplifying surds. For most of you, you've never simplified a surd before, and you're probably already thinking, well, forget about simplifying surds. I don't even know what a surd is. Well, judging by the table I have in front of you, you can see it has something to do with the square root sign. So I have the numbers from 1 to the square root of 200 on the screen. And what we're going to do is go through the ones that can be simplified. And so first of all, the ones that can be simplified to a whole number, those that can be simplified into a simpler surd, and I'll explain how to do that, and those that just remain as they are because it can't be simplified into a simpler surd. Now you'll notice, and I've actually started this video a few times before, so the first one we're going to look at is the square root of 4 actually becomes 2. So 2 is not a surd, and the square root of 4 is not a surd just because it has the square root sign. So remember, just because it has a square root sign doesn't make it a surd, because the square root of 4 actually becomes 2, and the number 2 is not a surd. What we're going to do is look for all the square root of perfect squares. So the number 4 is a perfect square. Okay, and what I mean by perfect square, so if we take 2 squared is 4. Okay, and we just can go in order. So 3 squared is 9, so 9 is a perfect square. So the next one we're going to do is the square root of 9. But I'm just going to continue this for now, just so you can see the pattern. Okay, and we're going to have to keep going, because you can see the highest number there I have is 200. So you're going to test my memory of squared numbers. Okay, come over here. Okay, so 9 squared is 81. 10 squared is 100. The good thing is the higher you go, the bigger the gap between the numbers. 144. 13 squared. Oh, I think it's 196. Now let me just pause and check that. Okay, it was actually 169. I knew as soon as I wrote it, it wasn't going to be that high. And then 14 squared, I think, is still under 200, but I don't know what that is. So I'm just going to cheat and do 14. Oh, that's 196. That's where I got the 196 from. Okay. Now, obviously, you won't go this high. But it's still good to have in your bound reference, okay, just for reference for later. So I'm going to keep them on for now because they'll be helpful when we're going to fill in the table. Okay, so we're going to look for the square root of all these numbers on the right. So we've already done the square root of 4, so the square root of 9 is here. So the square root of 9 is 3. You can also write this on your table. Okay, the next one is 16, which is 4. Then 25. Okay, and you get the hang of it. So what I might do is pause this video so you can finish off the table, and you can pause it too if you want to do it. Otherwise, you can wait until I've finished doing it and then just do it. It's up to you. All right, so if you haven't done so already, now's a good time to complete the yellow parts of the table. So you don't have to colour yours in yellow, but it's a good idea to colour it in something. So if you have some coloured pencils or just highlighters, you should be highlighting them. Okay, so these numbers are not surds. Okay, they're what we call integers. They're whole numbers. And they're rational numbers is another way of saying it. So what we're going to do now is work out the surds that can be simplified. Okay. Now, what you need to do the surds that can be simplified is look for a perfect square within the number. So what I mean by that is the number 4 goes into 8. Okay, so this one here can be simplified, and I'm going to do that one in blue. Okay, so the square root of 8 can be simplified, and I'll explain how to do that later. Okay, so for this one, we're just going to look at which ones can be simplified and which ones can't. All right, so anything that has a 4 in it that is basically a multiple of 4 can be simplified. So you can just then count in 4s if, oops, I'm not simplifying that just yet. A bit ahead of myself. Okay, so 12, 16 is already there. Okay, so we'll keep going to the next one. 20 can be simplified. And then 24 can be simplified. 28 can be simplified. 32. 36 is already simplified. 40. 44. Okay, so you get the hang of it. So I'm going to stop talking. You can do it yourself. So I'm going to pause now and finish off the 4s. All right, that took a long time, but they're all done now. I actually realized there was a pattern. You can see that skipping every second one, so is this one here. Now, I have no problem if at the end, if you've messed up your table, there's nothing wrong with taking a screenshot of this and printing it out in colour. Okay, it's totally up to you how you get this table into your bound reference, but you really need to have it. And I wouldn't just put it in the bound reference, I would, just so I remember it, and this might sound strange, I don't know whether I've told you before, but stick it on your shower screen or stick it up on the wall of your toilet so you're looking at it all the time. Okay, so what are we doing now? So we've done in yellow all the integers. Now in blue, we've started looking at those that can be simplified. So we've gone through multiples of 4. Now, any other number that has a multiple of 4, I don't need to do because it's already been done. So when I go through the list, the next one I'm going to do is 9, but I don't have to do 16 because we've already done multiples of 4. So the 16 will already have been done. All right, so let's go to 9, and maybe I'll explain that in a bit more detail. Okay, so we've done 9. The next one's 18. Okay, because 2 times 9 is 18. Then 27. Where are you? 27. I think going in order would be easy to find. Okay, 36 has already been done. Then add another 9 to give you 45, 54, 63, 72, where are we? Yeah, already been done. 81's already been done. 90, where are you? 90. 99. We've got 108, 117. I just realised a way of doing this. Okay, because we're adding 10 each time, so we're adding 9. We're just going along the diagonal like this. See what we're doing here? It's pretty cool, huh? Okay, and so the last one was 171, so then we go back to 180, 189, 198. Okay, so now we've done all the multiples of 9. Now, as I said before, because 4 is a factor of 16, we don't do the 16s, they've already been highlighted. So if you don't believe me or don't understand what I'm saying, 16 has been done, okay, because 16 was our perfect square. Then 16 times 2 is 32. 16 times 3 is 48. Okay, so they've already been done. 25, okay, so we've already done 25. Then we've got 50. Find it. 75. And it gets quicker because the gap between the numbers is less. So 100, 125, 150. 175, and then 200 has been done. Okay, 36 is also a multiple of 4, so we don't have to go through and do 36. 49 we do. So 49's already been done. 49 times 2 is 98. Just going to test my ability to add 49 to 98. So I would add 50, so that's 148, and then take away 147. And then we're over 200, so we don't have to do it again. 64 is a multiple of 4, so we don't need to do that. 81 we've done. 81 times 2 is 162. Has that been done yet? It's like playing bingo. Yep, it's been done, and then we don't do it again. 100's been done, and then we've got 200. So now I have found, or in blue, all the surds that can be simplified. So everything else just stays the same, okay, because it can't be simplified any further because it doesn't contain a perfect square. Okay, so nothing else on this table can be simplified. So if it hasn't been coloured in yellow or blue, you can colour it in another colour if you like. I'm not going to do it just because it's going to waste a bit of time. But what we're going to do now is look at those in blue. So what ones can be simplified? All right, so what I'm going to do on the side here, I'm not going to do all of them because I like to keep the videos short and you might like to practice them anyway. So I'm going to do a few. Let's start off with the very first one we have in blue, which is the square root of 8. Okay, so, oops, didn't have it on the pen. So if you were doing this, and I encourage you to go through and finish off the whole table, you can easily just check it on your calculator, because if you have your calculator in exact mode, and maybe I'll do that in a sec to show you what I mean by that, it will actually give you the surd answer, not a decimal answer. Anyway, let's get to the square root of 8. So remember we said 4 was a perfect square. So always write the perfect square first. So 4 is our perfect square. Remember our perfect squares of 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, and so on. Okay, I'm not going to keep writing them. And on your test, and this has been done in the past because it's usually tech free for surds because you can easily do surds on your calculator, I see students, the first thing they do is to write those perfect squares. Okay, you don't need to, but it's easier if you, especially if you've got a bigger number, you can say, all right, which one of these numbers goes into it. Okay, so 8 is 4. So what do we multiply 4 by to get to 8? We multiply it by 2. So then what we do is we separate those two numbers into two separate square roots. Now the reason we do a perfect square is because now the square root of 4, which we did before in yellow, is 2. Okay, so instead of writing the square root of 4, I write 2. And then I write 2 root 2. So the square root of 8 simplifies to 2 root 2. Now you can write that on your table if you like, although I don't know whether you've got much space. Maybe I'll redo this table for you and left justify it so you can actually fill it in. All right, let's do 12 because 12 also has 4 as its perfect square. Okay, so we write the perfect square first, which is 4. And what do we multiply 4 by to get to 12? So it's 3. Then we separate them. And we know the square root of 4 is 2. And then we write root 3. I haven't written in the times there. It's an implied multiply. But if you put times in there, it's not wrong. Okay, so don't be too stressed about that. It's just, I guess, better to not write the multiply, but you can leave it out if you like. Now, I think you can do a few more. What I'm going to do now is just do the square root of 72. Because this one's an interesting one. The square root of 72 has multiple factors that are perfect squares, okay, because 4 goes into 72, so does 9. 16 I don't think does, no. 25 doesn't, but 36 does. Okay, so even though 72 has 3 factors that are perfect squares, you need to choose the highest one. So in this case, it's 36. Okay, so 72 is the same, let's make that longer, as 36. times 2. And you don't have to separate it. Some people get into the habit of just skipping this step and knowing that the square root of 36 is 6. So it's 6 root 2. Now, let's just say you didn't choose the highest. Okay, so let's say you thought 9 was the highest, okay? So 9 times 8 is 72. So then you separate. And you get 3 root 8. You should check whether the square root of 8 can be simplified, and it can because it's in blue, whereas the square root of 2 isn't. Okay, so the square root of 8, either you realize it can be simplified or you use this table to realize it can be simplified. So what you can do is keep going. Okay, it's like when you were simplifying fractions, you got to keep going until it's simplified. Okay, so we can leave the 3 there. And I'm running out of room, but that's okay, I can write small. Square root of 8 is 4 times 2, and we actually did the working out. The very first one we did was the square root of 8, so I'm not going to do the whole thing. So it's going to be 3 times 2 root 2, and you realise you get 6. Oh, am I going to squeeze it in? 6 root 2, which is what we had up here. So even though in the second example I didn't choose the highest square factor, you can still work it out. You just have to realize that when you get to 3 root 8, square root of 8 can still be simplified, either because you realize or because you look at this table and it's blue. All right, I'm going to clear all this and show you another way of doing it. Not another way of doing it, but when you get to bigger numbers, so sometimes it's hard when you get to big numbers because you might be sitting there thinking, oh, I don't know what perfect square goes into it. Okay, now I've got the square root of 162. I can see it's blue. I've highlighted it, but I'm not sure what the highest perfect square is. Now, the best way to do it is to halve the number. Okay, so I'm just going to do it up here. I'll do it on this side. Okay, so 162 divided by 2. Okay, so half of 160 is 80, so it's 81. Ah, 81 is a perfect square. There we go. 81 times 2. Okay, so if you're not sure, just halve the number. That might give you the number that you need, the perfect square you need. Okay, so that's 9 root 2. Another example could be, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, 147 I'm going to do. You're like, oh, that's another horrible number. Can be simplified. Where is it? Can't even find it. There it is. Okay, it's blue. All right, I'm going to assume I haven't made an error in doing that. Let's halve it. 147 divided by 2. What do I get? 70. Oh, 73.5. Okay, so can't be a decimal. All right, let's try to divide it by 3. Okay, so let's see, what would that be? Oh, so 140 divided by 3. Can I do that? Oh, 147. Oh, so how many times does 3 go into 14? That's 4. Carry the 2, so it's 27. Okay, oh, it's 49. Sorry, I'm working things out loud and you're probably thinking, what is she mumbling? Okay, so I've just proven that it can be divided by 3. So the table helps because you might look at the square root of 147, you're like, oh, nah, that's a number, looks like a prime number. Nah, that can't be simplified, but it can. It's actually 49 times 3. So we now have the square root of 49 times the square root of 3. Square root of 49 is 7, so 7 root 3. Okay, so if you're ever stuck, especially with bigger numbers, halve them. If you can't halve it, divide it by 3. And if you can't divide it by 3, try something else like 5 or whatever. It's probably the best place to start. And it can be difficult, like 147 divided by 3. But, you know, another way you could have said is, all right, I'm not sure, but this rounds up to 150 divided by 3, which is going to give me 50. And then I've got 3 that it has to be. Okay, that'll give you 49. So just a matter of taking your time to think, well, what could it be? All right, I'm going to end the video there, but what I would like you to do is actually go through all of these. Oh, I know what I said. Okay, I'm just going to pause it to open up my calculator. All right, so I've opened up my calculator. Let's just do the square root of 100. Oh, press menu. Didn't even have it on. Okay, let's go to the calculator. All right, square root of 147. Okay, and it's given me the surd. Now, you might not have that. So I'll show you what you might have, and then I'll show you how to rectify it. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to go. All right, so you might get a decimal answer. Now, if you're planning on to go into methods, you need to really be working in exact mode. And when you check your answers for this topic, you should also be in exact mode. So at any time, you can just press on the dock, okay, settings and document settings. All right, I'm going to go through each one separately because you're probably thinking, well, what does the rest mean? Okay, so this float refers to the number of decimal places. If you have it in fixed, it's going to give you decimal places no matter whether they're there or not. Okay, so maybe I'll just show you what I mean because the number we just had. Okay, so let's do fixed 10. Okay, so let's do this again. Okay, so it's done it to 10 decimal places, whereas before it only did it to 4. So if you needed to look at more decimal places, you can do that, which is good if you're doing, I guess, scientific notation. But let's change that back because I don't like fixed. I prefer float. And I usually do float 12. So radian. If you're doing methods, you do radian. If you're going to further, you would probably do degree, but we don't do geometry and trig anymore, so you don't have to worry too much about that. Don't worry about those two. Sorry, I just wanted to see what that said. Okay, now the calculation mode is what you want to change. Okay, so the exact means it'll always give you the surd answer. The auto will change between the two, but often just go to exact, and approximate will always be decimal answers. So, whoops, I was meant to press exact. Okay, so for this topic, we want it in exact, and we just go make default. Okay, so now, whoops, what am I doing? Go away. Okay, so now I go back and I get a surd answer. So when you fill out this table, you can check your answers just quickly on your calculator. Don't cheat and just use your calculator because you do need to know how to do it by hand. Okay, and I'm going to be doing a lot of quizzes to make sure you know how to do it by hand. Okay, you can't rely on your calculator for this topic because all the tests will be done without your calculator. I only want you to be using your calculator to check your answers. If you're unsure about anything, please make sure you come and see me. As I said, you can take a screenshot of this and print it out, or there we go, you can take a screenshot, or if you prefer, here's one where I coloured in the non-simplified ones. Okay, here's one I created earlier. If you can't print it in colour, you should have just highlighted it anyway. All right, spoken longer than I wanted to, but all the best, and I'll see you later.